Okay, let's go on a bit of a voyage of discovery. Over on the left there you see a bunch of wood that's scrap. I'll come back to that. In front of us here under the tarps we have a bunch of white cedar planks. Over here, leaning up against the side of the shop, are two steamers. One of them is for ribs. The other one is for hood ends of the planks. And here we have a set of battens. Now I'll show you what we're playing at here. Let's go into the shop. And I'm making my first effort at building a boat. Not just any boat. There's the drawings. That's the construction drawing for a Lawley tender. Now I got the plan for this from the Mystic Seaport Museum. This design is from 1905 and it was taken from lines. The lines were taken from a boat that is in the museum that was built in 1907. And so the plans come in two sheets, construction drawing, and of course you can see this other one here with the table of offsets and so on. Sorry I got a bunch of junk kicking around here, but that's what the object of the exercise is to build this boat. Part of the reason I was attracted to this boat, there are a number of them, but among them is I had a couple of spare marine engines kicking around that really needed boats attached to them. And so I went looking for a plan. I came across this one, and what really attracted me to it was it has a whole lot of character. I'm going to try and reach across here. When you have a look at it, there is a fuel tank underneath the front seat here at floor level. And of course the engine and carburetor are going to be sitting right about there. They're going to be higher than the fuel tank. And so you're not going to be able to gravity feed fuel. So you're going to need to transfer it. So amidships, this thing has a bulkhead going across there. The bulkhead is only 3/4 of an inch thick, but it provides a mounting surface for the header tank, a transfer pump, the ignition switch, and several other things as well. So I thought, well, isn't that cool? The original boat as well had a transmission, so it had a forward, neutral, and reverse gear. And like that. And so I thought I'd like to have a go at this, only we're going to do her a little different. Because it's a replica, I think I can take a couple of liberties. And that's what we're about to do. So first off, I had to build myself a lofting table. So there's a 14-foot lofting table. So I built the table. Second thing I had to do is I had to teach myself how to loft. And so I've done all the lofting, and I'm just hoping that I've got it right. Otherwise, I'm going to find myself sitting in that chair. That chair is known as the moaning chair. And when you do a project such as this, the object of the exercise is to spend as little time sitting in the moaning chair as you possibly can. As I said before, I'd never built a boat before, and there's a lot of expensive wood that's going to go into this thing. And so I thought before I go making a bunch of mistakes in expensive wood, what we're going to do is we're going to build a bunch of things out of construction grade spruce just to see how they work. So I did show you outside the bunch of wood that's sitting in the fire pit. That was one of these. It was basically the keel, the dead wood, the stem, all made out of construction grade spruce. And so I was able to get a look at what it looks like. I was able to carve a cutwater. I was able to carve a rabbit line, do all that stuff for the very first time in construction grade spruce. I made all my mistakes there before even thinking about building this thing in oak. So the stem and so on, that's all going to be white oak. Ribs are going to be white oak. The planks are going to be white cedar. Back to my lofting table here. I use drafting paper to transfer what I had on the lofting table to patterns, and then I use the patterns to make templates out of, I don't even know what you call this stuff, some sort of a fiberboard. And you can see that I made all the parts in actual size in those, and then I was able to transfer those to the wood. Back here, you can see there is a construction grade spruce transom that has been made oversized. And because I'm having a little difficulty wrapping my head around what the bevel looks like on the transom. So what I'm going to do shortly is I'm going to mount that construction grade spruce transom onto the boat. And then when we fit the forms and fare everything, I'm going to see how much oversized it is. I'm going to whittle it down, the spruce one down. And again, I'm going to make all my mistakes on the spruce one before I start working on the white oak transom. And underneath the spruce transom, you can see is a blank already made up in white oak. Header tank. I did say that this thing has a header tank. There's a dipstick for the header tank. And over here, oh yes, and I did say that there's a 3/4 inch bulkhead, and we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to put in a bulkhead that's about 6 inches wide. And the bulkhead will basically be laid out in 3 parts. But before we get to that, let's have a look at this stuff. There's the engine that's going to power it. It's a 2.5 horsepower Kingfisher. It was built in Toronto in 1919. I was able to buy it in Bristol, Quebec. Beside it is a header tank. So this thing needs a header tank. There's the header tank. That header tank was made out of an insecticide can, and it's been MacGyvered. It's been handmade, and I thought that thing has got too much character. I got to use that. And so I'm going to incorporate it into the boat. When I bought the Kingfisher, the vendor sent me home with essentially anything that looked like a marine part. And so when I got all the parts home and started looking at them, I thought, you know something, you got enough to build a boat here. So Brent, if you happen to be looking at this video, you were very much the catalyst for this whole project. With that stuff that you sent me home with, there are a number of parts that I've been able to sift through that I found would go perfectly into this boat. And in any event, so here's my version of the bulkhead. And I just started sort of mocking it up. But what will happen is that the header tank and the transfer pump will be mounted here. In the central portion, there's going to be the tiller. There will be the ignition switch and so on. There'll be a cutout for the motor. And over on that side will be the batteries. And I'm going to use 2 6-volt batteries, and we'll wire those in series and use those. The top portion of it is going to be segmented into 3. The center portion will be fixed. This portion, when you lift it off, that'll provide you access to the transfer pump and the header tank. And then this side, when you lift it off, not only will you be able to access the batteries, but more importantly, there'll be a chart case in there. So it'll be a little bit of storage there. And so that'll get mounted about amidships on here. So there you go. That's it. There's a propeller shaft around here somewhere, and I have a propeller. There we go. There's a propeller. And we've got the engine. We've got the ignition system. We've got almost everything we need to build this. Coming up next, item next, is going to be mounting these molds. And I don't know if you can see those behind the saw, but there's a set of molds that have been done up there. And I anticipate that fitting those molds to this